All right, hello explorers and welcome back. All right, we're going to continue talking about our government as our nation was establishing it. I want to show you really quickly in Gallopade. I don't have time to share the video, unfortunately. So first, before you start taking notes, and let's see, here we go. If you would go to your Gallopade, and your teacher should have assigned this to you. If you go to the U.S. Constitution, lesson 7.3, there's a really great video in here that goes over checks and balances before we add our notes. So let's see if I can get it to load here. It's really moving slowly, probably because it's raining here at my house. Okay. I'm going to click on Go To, and I'm going to skip ahead to Checks and Balances. And the video on this page here, it's about 5 minutes long. This is a really good video to watch about what checks and balances are. So watch that first, and then come on back over to me for notes. Okay, so welcome back. We're going to add some notes to our notebook so that we're super duper prepared. Okay. So remember, as our founding fathers were starting out with the government, they knew they wanted that separation of power, right? This was super duper important for them, that no one person was able to get too much control. They wanted that separation of power. So remember yesterday we talked about how they decided to split up the government into 3 branches, and each branch had their own job to do, and no branch could do the other one's job. Okay, so they wanted to especially make sure that the president didn't get too much power, because they didn't want to have another leader like King George. They didn't want to have a tyrant that had all the power. So they designed the government so that each branch of the government had the power to balance out the other 2. And that way, one branch could not be too powerful. This was super duper important so that one branch cannot be more powerful than another. It helped ensure that they would not have another tyrant ruler like King George was. Okay, so we're going to do a few examples of how checks and balances work. Okay, so remember our legislative branch. Congress has the power and the job to make the laws. Okay, they make the bills to make the laws. Well, the president, the executive branch, can check Congress by vetoing a bill or a law. And veto means you reject it. Okay, so like Shaq says, not in my house. That's what, if the president sees a law coming through that they don't like, they can go, I'm going to veto it. I'm going to reject it. Now, there are some steps Congress can take to overturn a veto That way the president just can't say, oh, I'm going to veto this, I'm going to veto that, I'm going to veto this, I'm going to veto that, I'm going to veto everything. There's some steps that Congress can take to overturn a veto. But laws take a while to go into place because of the system, because a bill or a law has to go through several steps and go through the different branches to make sure that everybody agrees on it. Okay? Now, in the same sense, remember the Supreme Court decides if the laws are fair. They decide if the laws are constitutional and fair. So the Supreme Court can strike down a bill or a law from Congress. So that gives the Supreme Court power too, to kind of balance out so that Congress doesn't get too much power making all these laws. It gives our government checks and balances to make sure no one gets too much power and that bills and laws stay fair. Okay, so another example is the president is in charge. One of their jobs when they first start, they will appoint Supreme Court judges, the federal judges. So when they come into office, they will pick out They will pick out which judges they feel like will pass the laws that they think are right and fair for the country. But Congress has the final say. So the president may come in and say, I want this judge, and I want this judge, and I want this judge, and Congress can say, you can have that one, you can have that one, but no, we don't like that one, pick another. So Congress has to approve them. Congress has final approval. Do you say okie dokie or no way? Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the branches in Georgia. So we've talked about how the three branches work in the federal government in the country. Now we're going to talk about how they work for our state, because in our state, in our cities, we also have the three branches of government. Okay, so I'm going to make a little chart here that has the branch of government for the United States and for Georgia. So we can see how they look. Okay, so let's talk legislative first. So legislative is our one that makes the laws. Legislative. And in the United States, for our federal government, we're talking Congress here, right? So for the U.S., Congress is the one who makes the laws. Now for Georgia, it's called the General Assembly. Okay, so General Assembly makes the laws that are specific for Georgia. Okay, we still go by Congress, the laws that they pass, but for the state, we go by the General Assembly. All right, so let's talk next about the executive branch. For the executive branch, who's in charge of the executive branch for the U.S.? You can look back at your notes from yesterday. Okay, remember, that's the president and the vice president. I'm going to just put president here for right now. So the president is in charge of leading the U.S., the country, the federal. But in the state, we also need a leader here. And our leader for the state of Georgia is the governor. So you might hear some stuff on the news coming up because we are going to be electing a new governor, because remember, we the people get to choose who we want making the decisions for us. So the governor is about to, we're going to be electing a new governor next year. Okay, last branch is judicial. And for the U.S., it's the Supreme Court. This is an easy one for Georgia. For Georgia, it's just called the Supreme Court of Georgia. So remember, the Supreme Court decides for the country on a federal level if the rules and the laws are fair. And the Supreme Court of Georgia decides for the state if the rules and the laws are fair. Okay, remember you have the Gallopade lesson on checks and balances that's in the Constitution. If you would like to learn more or get more information. And then once you have done that, we are going to go to our social studies card in Canvas. And I'm going to let it jump because it always does it. There it goes. Okay, and we are going to go to 3.25 checks and balances and complete this quizzy. Okay, great job learning today, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.